Good evening. Yes, welcome back. Fire Burns Within channel back again. Very prolific these days. Sorry for constant flooding of your YouTube channels. Anyway, the 90s. 90s heavy metal. Some people say the 90s was a bad decade for heavy metal. I don't think so. I think it's a really good, solid decade for heavy metal. So many great albums released. Okay, a lot of them went under the radar, but metal was thriving. It's still in the 90s, but it was just a little bit underground. It wasn't like on MTV, or it wasn't like pumping and mainstream. And maybe in the 80s, metal was a little bit more in people's face, but in the 90s metal was still very cool. It was getting much more prevalent, far more choice of bands, far different styles, the rise of death, the rise of black metal, all that stuff. Anyway, enough chit chat. The same format as I used in the 80s video. I'm going to list the top three from each year of the 90s, 90 to 99, a top three. And then I'm going to list a top 15, taking 15 of those 30 and putting 15 aside. So anyway, 1990, counting down from 3 to 1. In third place, Death, Spiritual Healing. You're going to be hearing a lot about Death in the next 10-15 minutes. Sorry. So Spiritual Healing, Death, yes. Very good album. Very enjoyable for me. Somewhat underrated in the Death catalogue. But still two ahead of it in 1998. Number 2, Testament, Souls of Black. Great thrash record. Really like it. Really cool. Still pretty melodic. Very catchy album. But the number one, and undoubtedly probably the greatest thrash record ever. It's of course Megadeth and Rust in Peace. Can't say too much about it really. Everyone knows how much it's held in so much high regard for by literally everybody. Okay. 1991, in third place, Morbid Angels, Blessed Are the Sick, the second album. Deep, dark atmospheres, great riffs, great solos, catchy riffs, darkness, grimness, murky, occult death metal. In second place, Atheist, Unquestionable Presence. Awesome, jazzy, technical death, wondrous bass playing, funky almost, slap bass, crystal clear, separation between guitar and bass and drums. Awesome album. But the number one album in 91 is To the Mighty Death and Human, moving away from straight ahead death metal and starting to use technicality. Still very brutal, very heavy, but becoming a more technical and more melodic band slowly. 92, in third place, we have Maiden's Fear of the Dark. Yeah, it's a very good album. Not the best Maiden, but it's still a good Maiden album. Some really cool tunes, worthy of the top three. In the second spot, Dream Theater's Images and Words. Yeah, I love this album. It's classic Dream Theater. It's definitely my favourite Dream Theater album. It's melodic, it's memorable, it's very progressive, very amazing technical riffage, great solos, and still memorable songs at the same time. The number one in 92 is the almighty Megadeth again, and Countdown to Extinction. It's my first Megadeth album. I absolutely played this to death in the old days in the 90s when I heard this. Excuse me. I love it. I love it even now. It's just an awesome album. Streamlined, catchy, non-thrashy really Megadeth. Not, moving quite far away from Rust in Peace, going in for this sleek, state of the art type of thrash. Very cool. 93 in third place. 93 is the year of death metal. In third place, we have Cynic and Focus. Very unique sound, very melodic, clear, technical death metal, jazzy, groovy, melodic. What can I say? Using different type of voices. The vocoder, I think it's called, electronic voice. Very cool album, great production. Everything is top notch. In second place in 93, we have Death and Individual Thought Patterns. Again, even more technical than Human. Possibly the most technical Death album of all. Very melodic still, very catchy, clean bass. Great stuff. Great album. But still not the number one. The number one album of 93 is Carcass and Heartwork. Again, death metal. I was huge into death metal in these days. I love Heartwork. It's an awesome album. Unsurpassed by Carcass throughout their discography. It's just a classic heavy death metal. Groovy, melodic, catchy. Just an awesome album. 1994, in third place, Bolt Thrower for Victory. My first Bolt Thrower album, I loved it. Heavy, groovy, big heavy vocals from Carl Willits, great riffs, catchiness, stomping riffs, just a barrage of killer guitar riffs throughout. Number two in 1994, something completely different. Finally, some melody coming into my taste, some more melodic power metal, Running Wild, Black Hand In. This is a great album, one of Running Wild's best. Very catchy, very fast, very melodic, very cool album. And the number one album. I've returned to my old faves. It's Megadeth and Euthanasia. I love this album. It's probably the most melodic album. It's one step ahead to commerciality from Countdown to Extinction. A lot of Megadeth fans will say, well, where's the thrash? But if you enjoy melodies and riffs and catchiness, then you're going to love Euthanasia. It's a very cool album. It's very melodic. It's very memorable. Even Dave's singing style is really quite acceptable. I mean, he's not like rasping or screaming like the old days. He's trying to sing. He's trying to sing melodically, and he's doing a pretty good job. 1995. In third place, we have Paradise Lost, The Draconian Times. To this day, my favourite Paradise Lost album. It's just an awesome album, top to bottom. Very cool, dark melodies, awesome vocals from Nick Holmes. Just a great album, solid all the way through. In second place, we have At the Gates and Slaughter of the Soul, a classic Melodeath album. Sweden was churning them out like left, right and centre at this point. This is a classic melodic death album. Great riffs, great structures, cool production, and then you got the great vocals from Thomas, forget his surname now. That Thomas guy. But the number one is the almighty Death again, and Symbolic. Symbolic is my favourite Death album. It's the most melodic Death album. It's very well produced. It's very catchy. It's got emotional songs as well. It's just perfect in my eyes. It's an awesome album. Moving on to 1996. In third place, we have Arch Enemy's Black Earth. I loved this one when it came out. Melodic death, thrashy. Mike Amott, he left Carcass and formed Arch Enemy, and it's a really cool band. More melodic, more catchy. Great vocals from Johan Lever, the original singer. Very cool. In second place, we have Iced Earth's The Dark Saga. Very melodic heavy metal, not so much power metal. They rein back or the speed or the aggression, just making more melodic songs, more memorable songs. A very cool album. But the number one for 1996, going back to Sweden, back to melodic death, it's In Flames again, and The Jester Race. It's an awesome album. To this day, it's my favourite In Flames album. They can't beat it. They can't get close to it. It's very melodic, great riffs. Everything is cool about this. The production is rock solid. Very enjoyable. 1997. In third place, we have quite an underrated album in my opinion. It's Megadeth again, Cryptic Writings. A good mix of styles, some thrashy songs, some melodic songs, some poppier songs. It's a good mix. I mean, they're covering all bases. They're trying to please everybody, and they're doing a fair job at it. I mean, it's an awesome album. I love Cryptic Writings. In the number 2 slot, back to Sweden, back to melodic death. It's Dark Tranquillity's The Mind's Eye. I played this loads when I first got it. I was like addicted to this album. It's such a cool melodic album. Michael Stanner's vocals are really cool. The riffs are really catchy. Production is clean. It's an awesome album. Staying in Sweden, I'm afraid, for the number 1 disc of 1997. It's In Flames, and again Horacle. Again, a step up a notch after production wise. I mean, after The Jester Race. I still prefer The Jester Race, but Horacle is a great follow up. It's very melodic. The guitar sounds a little bit beefier, a little bit thicker. It's just a cool as hell melodic death metal album. Very catchy. 1998, just 2 years to go. In third place, we have Running Wild, The Rivalry. My first time listening to Running Wild. I love this album. It's my second favourite possibly. Sometimes it used to be my first, but now it's my second favourite, Running Wild. I love literally every song on this. It's awesome. It's very cleanly produced. Rock and roll sounds amazing, top form. The lyrics are really cool as well. Very cool power metal, classic. Number 2. I told you we're going to hear that name Death a lot, and you've heard it again. It's The Sound of Perseverance. It's the last Death album before Chuck's passing. It's a classic. It's heavy, it's clean, it's melodic, it's memorable, it's got progressive elements. It's a very cool listen. I mean, it's just a fantastic listen. But it's not the number 1. The number 1 album of 1998 for me is the mighty Virgin Steel and Invictus. Power metal, heavy, pounding, epic, just awesome heavy metal. David Dufay is an awesome singer. I've talked about this guy before. He's a classic heavy metal singer. I love it. And this album is just an epic album. It's like the full CD is like 79 minutes. He crams as much as he can into the one CD format. Awesome, awesome album. I love this album from the beginning to the end. Awesome. 1999, we reached the final year of the decade. In third place, we have Saxon and Metalhead. I love this album. This is either my favourite or my second favourite Saxon album. Probably my favourite. It's very melodic. The production is really cool. It's very power metal-ish. Very catchy songs. Biff sounds good. I love Metalhead. It's a great mid-period, let's say, Saxon album. Mid to late. Well, they've been going on so long that, you know, it's hard to say. I mean, some people would say it's their later period, but for me, let's call it mid-period, because it is nearly 20 years old. Well, it's over 20 years old, should I say, 21. Anyway, in second place, we have Gamma Ray's Power Plant. I really like this album. Very melodic, very catchy. Sometimes sounding like Maiden, sometimes sounding like Priest, sometimes even sounding like Manowar. Just a great mix. I mean, I really like this album. I mean, the fact that I didn't include Land of the Free in 1995 was difficult, but it's only a top three, so I had to pick other ones ahead of Land of the Free. But in 99, the choice was such that I gave Gamma Ray the nod there for second place. But anyway, the top album in 99, and I had a few to choose from actually, is Primal Fear's Jaws of Death, the second Primal Fear album. The first one was a good statement, but the second one is really heavy, really pounds it home. The Judas Priest influence is large. Sheepers is the man. This is a proper, screeching, powerful heavy metal album. And that was my number one of 99. So those are the top threes from each year in the decade that was the 90s. And now the top 15 in reverse order. My top 15 albums of the 90s. In 15th place, we have Megadeth and Euthanasia. Very melodic, as I said. In 14th place, Paradise Lost with Draconian Times, their best album in my opinion. In 13th place, At the Gates, Slaughter of the Soul, very catchy. In 12th place, Running Wild, The Rivalry. Number 11 is Atheist, Unquestionable Presence, awesome album. Number 10 is Death and Human, again a wicked album. Number 9 is In Flames, The Jester Race, possibly the best melodic death album of all time. It's so close between that and At the Gates. It's inches. Number 8 is Death and Individual Thought Patterns. Death is just ruling the 90s. Number 7 is Cynic and Focus. Awesome album. They've not been able to top it even since their comeback. I mean, they've sort of changed tack as well. They're not really using the death metal style anymore. Number 6 is Death, The Sound of Perseverance. Again, easy choice to be in the top 15. Number 5 is Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction. Yeah, my favourite original Megadeth album before I heard You Know What. Number 4 is Carcass and Heartwork. Amazing album. Number 3, Virgin Steel, Invictus. I've talked about this enough. My love for this album is endless. 2 left. Number 2 is Death and Symbolic, my favourite Death album. Just awesome. But the number 1, and it was the very first year, it's obviously Megadeth and Rust in Peace. Enough said. Nothing more needs to be said about that album. It's an awesome album. So that was my top 15 of the 90s. What say you?